handing all of this over to Jamie, and he's going to get us started, but here we go. Thank you.
Actually, before we start, Noel's going to run a grounding. It's something that he taught me how to do, and I think it's an awesome practice that I want you all to experience.
So what a grounding is a breathing exercise, a poem, a quote, or a combination of all three. So we do grounds and we still just as practicing because we don't know what you've been through throughout the day, what you're going through, and this is a way to slow things down, slow your mind down, slow your body down, and just to focus on the here and now. And everything that I'm asking everyone to do is going to be an invitation. So the invitation is to close your eyes. You're comfortable with that? If not, just focus on what's in front of you. Feel your feet flat on the floor. You can place your hands by your side or on your lap, whichever comfortable for you. And just focus on the here and now. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold at the top and release slowly. Take another deep breath in. Hold and release slowly. And just use this time to scan your body from head to toe. Any stress, any aches, worries, anxiety, just push it out with each breath. Stomach in, chest rise. Hold and release slowly. I'm gonna leave you with a few words as well. If you want to go fast in life, go by yourself. But if you want to go far in life, go together. Just sit with that for a few seconds as you continue to breathe. Deep breath in. Hold and release slowly. And when you're ready, invitation is always to come back to the space. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Noble. Awesome way to start a meeting and something that I learned from Noble.
Just one thing. Sure. I'm going to ask that everybody close their computers, turn off all their sounds, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, Scott, I see you. Okay, so today's topic is leadership and community restoration. So you all know in this room that part of sustainability is taking care of people, taking care of communities. But the greater world is not there yet. Right? You can look at just how many projects we sourced and how many of them have a social side of it. It's 2 out of 19. If you look at the materiality assessment that one of our teams did, you also see when they sort of rank the topics that are important to investors, DEIJ was 11 out of 19, right? So the purpose of today is to really get you guys in tune with what I like to refer to as community restoration and how that has everything to do with you as future leaders, right? If you think about the communities around here, and Noble's going to tell you a lot more about the community he grew up in right near here. What I want you to do when Noble talks is think about, hey, if I grew up like Noble, if I grew up in the same situation as him, as Armand, like, would I really have been able to think about efficiency, about insulation, about carbon credits, right? When you're at such a basic level and you're just trying to provide for yourself and your family, a lot of those things go out the window, right? When you are at the basic level, then you're going to eat the last fish. You're going to cut down the last tree, right? We have to take care of our communities if we want to take care of the world. So what's this got to do with leadership? I'll give you my own example. In 2020, I was running a barbershop, a chain of barbershops, 2,500 employees across 17 states, 128 different barbershops. When the George Floyd protests happened, I was a bad leader. I didn't even know it at the time, but I failed my team. They were looking to us, to the leadership team, to say, what's our response? What are we going to do? What's our stance on this? And because I didn't understand the communities that were suffering, I could not respond to it. So we did put in some things that were very genuine, right? We doubled down on DIJ. We went and implemented a bunch of things. We increased our training so that we could do all types of hair and all races, right? Real things, we really meant it. But what I was lacking was an understanding of the communities and why they were suffering. So I let my team down. What that looked like on the team side was apathy. Who wants to run an organization filled with apathy? It's terrible, right? It's a customer service business. And if people don't really care, then you're going to have a bad experience in the barbershop. Mr. B, our barber trainer who teaches in the prisons here in Massachusetts, would never let that happen, right? So by letting the team down, I created apathy and I created quiet quitting. I created people quitting, I'm just not feeling it anymore. Right? Suddenly we were struggling with turnover. Could I say for sure that's exactly the reason? No, it's pretty hard to say exactly why people were leaving, but they were leaving and we were not the employer of choice anymore. That's failed leadership. The only time I really made progress was just across the river. I spent about 3 hours meeting with Noble, Armand, my brother, Billy, and it was the first time I really understood what happens in some of these underserved and underprivileged communities. The first time that I really saw my own biases, right? I could see what I was thinking and compare it to what they experienced and see where I was wrong. From that day, I've kept in touch with these guys. I'll tell you more about the business I'm building later, but I want you to have that same experience that I did because it really changed everything for me. So without too much introduction, Noble's going to give you his story. I want you to have the same experience I did.
Thank you for that. So my name's Noble. I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up right there in the South End, Linux Projects. I was born and raised in there. And I say growing up, living in the projects, I witnessed and seen so much. But I'm gonna just start with just elementary, right? When I was just before the age of 10, my mother, father, they struggled with substance. So like, it was one day that my mother took me to her friend's house, and I'm probably like between 8 to 10, because up to this day she still don't want to tell me how old I was, because she don't like me living or talking about it. We went to a friend's house, and as we got there, she was with her friend. I was in the other room, and somebody came to, like 3 people came to the house, and they actually murdered her friend in front of both of us. And so we made it out alive. When I got to the police station, the only thing the police cared about was who did it. I'll never forget that they had me looking at a whole photo book, and I get to a part where there's a whole bunch of clowns. And I'm a baby at this time, so I start laughing. I start laughing like, wow, all these clowns in here. The police came in and said, this is not an effing game. Someone got murdered. And look in this book and find out who did it. Completely shut me down. We didn't get no mental health. We didn't have no one to talk to us. The fact that my mother wasn't able to help the police find the person that murdered her friend right in front of us, they just sent us home. And just came another day, no one ever checked in with us. And as time went on, 5th grade was my changing point in my life. On the day I graduated I graduated this in the South End, I forget the name of the school, right? But the Blackstone. I got into a lot of fights, right? Trauma there. So the Blackstone I was going to, and the day I graduated, was no one there to support me. My mother wasn't there. My father wasn't there. My brother, nobody. So when I got home, that's like the longest walk from my school to my house. When I get home, mother's passed out, drugs, bottles everywhere. From the 5th grade, when I graduated, I said, forget education. I felt that they didn't care about education, so why should I care about education? I continue my life living in Linux Projects. So many crimes were committed against me before I committed my first crime. Um, all the time being stopped by police, being questioned, being searched. And this is all around the time of elementary going into middle school, just me just being a child. The abuse that I suffered inside my household led me to further into the streets. I felt more safer in the projects than I actually felt in my own household. With that, it was me and a few of my other friends going through the same thing in life. We never spoke about it, so we came together, and I became a leader of a gang. It was really we just all friends at first and going through the same thing. It was really more of our own protection. If I leave out of Linux projects, even though I lived there, my life is always in danger because they was beefing and warring with other different projects and other places. So me having a gang was more of a protection. And as life went on, I was just spiraling out of control. I had no support. I had no one to talk to me. This is all through middle school. I had a son. My son was born. I committed a crime that I'm responsible for. And when my son was born, I was literally sitting in prison at DYS. That had me in a point where my father left me and here I am living my son. And I thought after having a son that life would be better, that I'll know how to navigate. But still, I had no support, no resources. And the fact that I'm living in the projects, there's no opportunities at all. Coming home, before I came home, I'm like, I'm gonna come home and be the best father I could possibly be. My best friend get murdered. Only thing I thought about was revenge. So now I'm home trying to be a father, and I'm in the streets heavy. I'm in the streets trying to find the people that killed my best friend. I once again stopped being a father. I ended up moving to Fall River. Living in Fall River for like 2 years, I was called a nigga every day. Me, my son, my family. Just walking down the street, I was being called nigga. At work, I had so much anger, so much rage. And me committing crimes is like so many things happened to me and no one was held accountable. But I'm always gotta be held accountable for everything that I did, everything that I didn't do, and I had no one to protect me or be there for me. I continued being deeper in the streets. I committed another crime which I'm responsible for. And I can only say that I'm responsible for it today because I went through my healing journey. I was looking at 9 to 12 years. My lawyer said to me, why would a person say you did that to them if you didn't do it? It's my lawyer. I got a white lawyer, I got a white DA, I got a white judge. Didn't trust my lawyer, so I took a blind plea with the judge. And the blind plea is just telling the judge, I don't know what you're going to give me, but I don't trust no one here, so whatever you give me, just give it to me. I got 9 to 12 years. I continue further in the streets. If I was in prison, I continue repping my hood. I continue doing all the negative things that I was doing, but it was just only life I knew. Being inside of prison, I was introduced to restorative justice. And that's when my healing journey started. That's when the first time I was able to really speak about what I've been through and understand the trauma that I suffered through as a child wasn't my fault. And going through that healing journey helped me to really understand me and what I want to do in this world. Coming home, and we actually built our organization in prison, which is just the Transformational Prison Project, which is built by the men and as well as Mom's leadership inside. And the goal was to turn places of harm into places of healing. I spent 10 years in prison. Every single day I was re-traumatized. They can strip search me anytime they want. They had control of my body, my mind to a certain extent. I couldn't go nowhere. I was using the bathroom, I'm being watched while using the bathroom, patted down for visits. I was fully controlled. And then when you come home, they tell you to go figure it out for yourself. So many organizations came into the prison to say they're here to help us. When I came home, that shit was a myth. Zero resources for anyone that's coming home out of prison, zero. So we had to figure it out ourselves. I was grateful. My wife been supporting me. Amon was there, Eric, Bobby, my brother, but that was the team that we had. And we was like, we have to figure out how do we create resources for people that's coming home because we didn't have none. And that's how we continue to grow our organization. So as people come home, we're there to support them and walk them through the process. Give you a quick story, right? And the cell's like a bathroom, a small bathroom. I was in there with another person. I spent years in there with them. Coming home, I went to my brother's house and he had the basement decked out for me. Living room, shower, my own room. And I stayed downstairs the whole time. I think it was like a mansion, right, compared to what I'm used to. And then even till today, I had to explain to him, he's like, bro, why you downstairs? I don't come upstairs and hang out with the family. And I'm just like, listen, I just want to give y'all space. And he's like, you're my brother. You don't need to give us space. And I realized that being in prison for so long, right, I'm comfortable with being by myself. And I had to explain to him about like what I had to endure inside is why I'm okay with being by myself and why I stay downstairs. The transition of coming home was not easy at all. And no one wanted to give me a job. I have a violent crime. I have a felony. I don't call myself, I never said that I'm a returning citizen because I could not exhaust all the amendments. I'm a returning community member. I'm literally in exile. And what job can I possibly have to support my family? I got a wife, I got children, and I got myself to support, and there's nothing out there, right? TPP gave me that opportunity to have a place where I could take care of my family, take care of myself, and the goal is to continue doing that for everyone else. My journey, just a little bit of my story is not rare. It's all down the street, right down the street, all through Boston, Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan. So many youths that I've been through what I'm going through and still struggling today. And the police make sure they keep us in those neighborhoods. You can't come out those neighborhoods. When you come to a nice neighborhood like Cambridge, they're gonna make sure they get us out of there. So even when I was younger, I didn't want to come to outside of my neighborhood because I already knew what the results was gonna be. Today, I'm proud to say that I'm a senior director of programming. I'm on my 7th semester teaching at Columbia University School of Social Work. Teaching social work is about transformative justice, restorative justice, and abolition. We just wrapped up teaching Tufts. I did some semesters at Harvard, and I will do some semesters here. You need me, right? And me saying that is because no one gave me an opportunity. We had to create it for ourselves, and we really got to start having support for people that are going through it, what I've been through, right? And helping them, supporting them, and really, when we have these conversations on how we create things in our community, we need to have community members in that community. Like those that, people like us don't have no voice. And I realize it's not about how hard you work. What I'm doing today is really about who you know. It's about who you know. And the fact that people trust me and give me an opportunity to have a job, to work different places so I can support my family and not to be treated as if the person that committed that crime, I committed that crime every single day, right? That's how people look at people with felonies and coming from low income housing. So the conclusion for me is me being here today is really to let y'all know that When I see people that look like us or whatever they've been through, just ask them about their story. Because everyone who got the car in here, who got license plates on their cars. Everyone, right? Everyone that has the car has those license plates is being made at Norfolk by the men incarcerated. So how can't the people come home and provide for our community and everyone have license plates? And it is all being made. This is modern day slavery, and how it's being supported, and no one even knows where the license plates is coming from. And those men is getting $30 a month, if that, to make thousands of license plates, and come home and be told that you can't get a job, you don't know how to work hard, you can't get support, you can't be supported. So our goal is to continue just opening up those doors and just bringing awareness to what's really going on. And the goal is to work in partnership. I'm not looking to work for nobody. It didn't work out for me, right? No one wanted to give me a job. And so I'm on certain stages now, all these doors is open, but how about the people, the men and women that don't have a stage or a platform, who's going to be there and support them? And my son is graduating June 6th. Me and him have a beautiful relationship today. Got a beautiful marriage, and this is only possible through the work I was doing through Restorative Justice. Thank you.
How do I get Scott up? How do I get Scott Budnick up? Scott Budnick, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right, hang on one sec. All right, I want to tell you one thing about Noble. My favorite fact about him, you heard everything he's been through. What do you say every time I call you and you say, hey, Noble, how you doing?
Doing amazing.
He means it. Like every time he says it, it makes my day because I know he means it. I'm like, how is that possible with everything you've been through that you're doing amazing? But I learn a lot from Noble every time I talk to him. He's just such a positive guy. Can we get Scott Budnick up there? Oh, okay. All right, Scott, you'll be on there as soon as you talk. Okay, so I have a Hollywood stalker problem. So this famous producer that produced The Hangover and War Dogs and Just Mercy contacted me out of the blue and just wouldn't leave me alone. Right, Scott? Is that true?
So true.
So he's not lying. So Scott Budnick reached out to me. As you know, I used to run a barbershop chain. He reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, which my mom and Scott Budnick use. Sorry, Mom, I still love you.
No. Hold on. I don't use Facebook Messenger. That's the only thing you were on. I couldn't find you on Instagram.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. All right, we're both stink at it. All right, so Scott reaches out. He said, hey, there's all these guys in the prisons in California that are terrific barbers, and they can't get licensed while they're in prison. Can you help? So I promptly responded in about 6 months. Meanwhile, he had met Vic, and he and Vic actually already, I don't know where Vic disappeared, but Vic's off training barbers. So he actually, these guys figured out how to get the guys in the California prisons licensed. So when they come out, they can get jobs that pay 50, 60, 70 grand right away. Think about that versus, oh, I'm sorry, I know you're a great barber, but you have to go to barber school. That's 1,500 hours. It's 15 to 20 grand. It's going to take you a year, right? That's like infinity and $1 billion to somebody that just got out of prison. So what I really love about Scott is he's taken his privilege and his position to go make a difference. When I visited his anti-recidivism coalition in LA, I told Scott this when I was going to leave. I was like, Scott, I would hire every single person I met today that works for you. And I would say 90 plus of those people had been paroled from a life sentence, right? So they had seen some horrible stuff. Every one of them was inspiring. And that's when I knew I wanted to be more like Scott when I grew up, because he is making such a difference in the world, and he is using his privilege to make opportunities and to help people like Noble. Scott, take it away.
Hey, James, there's no way for me to see the students, right? Other than just see an empty blackboard. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
That's a beautiful classroom. Look at that. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, good. Good to see everyone. My name's Scott Budnick. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I went into the film business, started as a production assistant with a director named Todd Phillips on his first movie called Road Trip. And then ended up producing all of his films, Old School, Starsky and Hutch, Hangover 1, 2, 3, Due Date, Project X, War Dogs. And then I ended up having a miraculous day that kind of changed my entire life. When I was doing the film Old School, I ended up meeting a friend who invited me down to a juvenile hall in Los Angeles where we incarcerate 14, 15, 16-year-olds. And I went down to this juvenile hall on a Saturday morning to be a guest speaker in a creative writing class. And I came into this cell block and sat down with about a dozen kids, 14, 15, 16 years old. And I sat next to the first kid, a small little kid, maybe 5'3", had a little mohawk on his head and a big smile. And I said, "How are you doing? How was your week?" And he said, "It was a really bad week. I just got sentenced to 300 years to life in prison." And he was 15 years old. And of course I said, "Well, what happened? What did you do?" And he said, "I stood next to my friend who shot the victim in the butt. The victim was in and out of the hospital in one day. And for standing next to the person with the gun, I got 300 years to life in prison." And as I went around that table and met all of these young men around the table, every one of them said they were facing 50 to life, 75 to life, 100 to life, 200 to life. And it made me realize very quickly that if that was my kid and that they had my skin color and they had my wealth, number one, they would be out on bail. They would not be sitting in that jail. They would be bailed out and sleeping in their bed as they went to court for this case. And number two, they'd have the best lawyer in Los Angeles, and they would probably get no days in prison for standing next to someone that shot someone in the butt. But David was not that lucky. David was heading to prison for 300 to life because he was in foster care and didn't have parents, because he didn't have resources, because he had no one to stand up and show who he was as a human being rather than what happened on that one date. And I committed on that day to those kids, if they were willing to change their life, I would start coming to that juvenile hall every week and teaching that class. And I did every week starting in February 2004. And I'm still there every Saturday in 2023. And it was the most unbelievable thing I did in my life. In fact, while I was making films, I had dozens of guys that got out of that juvenile hall and women that got out of that juvenile hall working on The Hangover, both working on Project X and because it was a high school house party movie and they looked like high school students, being extras every night as we were shooting Project X. And they were the hardest workers ever. They would show up an hour early. They would work their asses off. They had an attitude of gratitude. And I realized that I wasn't getting as much joy out of making movies as I was out of working with young people, young men and women, young boys and girls coming out of the system. So after Hangover 3, and just as we were about to finish War Dogs, I ended up leaving the film business altogether and starting a nonprofit organization called ARC in Los Angeles that works with people both in jails, prisons, and juvenile halls, and those that were coming home from jails, prisons, and juvenile halls. And what our mission is about fourfold. Number one, to create a positive community for someone who was incarcerated to come home to, where they're surrounded by people that are showing them love, showing them affection, moving upwards in their lives, in college, in great jobs, etc. So having that community is the first mission. Secondly, to provide direct services. So whether we're providing housing for hundreds of people in Los Angeles, mentors, connections to jobs, careers, therapy, going to college, going to university, scholarships, etc. All of those direct services that people need when they come home from incarceration. Thirdly, a huge piece of what we do is believe that those who were incarcerated, like Noble, like you heard from my brother right there, who I love, right? I don't believe there's anyone more qualified to change the system or change the laws or change people's hearts and minds of how they see people in the criminal justice system than someone like Noble with his life experience. He saw what works in the system. He saw what doesn't work in the system. He saw what the system was meant to do. And he, better than anybody, knows. So at ARC, we empower those who are formerly incarcerated to literally walk the halls of our state capitol. We train them, we run multiple bills. And I'm really happy to say that when we first got started, we were able to pass a piece of legislation that affected over 20,000 young people in our California prison system who are all sentenced to die in prison, and now give them the chance of parole at 15, 20, or 25 years in prison. And because of that, David, who I told you, thank you. David, who I told you about, who had 300 years to life in my first class, I was able to tell him that he now has a sentence of 25 to life in prison. And because David, just like you guys, went to college, got his degree, helped people, mentored people, etc., David was commuted by Governor Jerry Brown, came home, and David Negretti now works for us at ARC. And it was a really incredible full circle moment that we actually can empower those who've lived this to change laws that affect the people that we know to come home and be productive members of society. So that was an incredible experience. And I would say the last piece of what we do, actually, I'll tell you one more story. We were able to, in California, we would put people in solitary confinement for up to 35 years. It's at a prison called Pelican Bay in Northern California. And after we passed this bill called SB 260, we went up to Pelican Bay to meet all the guys who were in solitary confinement, who were deemed the worst of the worst, and let them know because of this bill, because they were a juvenile when they committed their crime under the age of 18, if they changed their life, did what they were supposed to do, they're now able to come home. And so I was able to, they had to bring these guys out and put them in a cage. So you're sitting on an opposite side of a cage, standing and talking to someone who's in a stand-up cage. And they brought out this old man who looked like he was in his 60s, and he'd committed his crime under the age of 18. And I let him know that we just passed Senate Bill 260, and he now has the chance of come home. And this old man, the worst of the worst, started crying. And he said, "This is the first day in 30 years that I've felt hope." And he reached his finger through a little hole in the cage, and we shook pinky fingers. And he said, "You were the first human being I've touched in 30 years. And it was such a profound moment for me to be able to see that even those that we have thrown out, have deemed the worst of the worst, when you have hope, everything changes. And because he had hope, he ended up getting out of the shoe. He ended up going out onto a regular line. He ended up becoming a math tutor in the college program, and he ended up coming home. And to be able to see that type of human effect in the work that we're doing is just, I'll be honest with you, there's nothing comparable. Being out on Hangover's opening night with all the actors, going around and seeing movie theaters and hearing how much money the movie made is nothing compared to seeing human lives get changed and see people who are hopeless have hope, and know that I had a small part to play in that. The last thing, part of our mission at ARC, is that I knew that we could change hearts and minds, just like Noble did in standing before you today, about how people see the formerly incarcerated, both through them telling their stories, through us shooting short form videos for Instagram or TikTok. And I met, when I was doing this, I met the person who led the political movement for marriage equality. And I asked him, "How did you legalize gay marriage across the country? What were the game changers?" And he looked at me and he said, "Will and Grace, Glee, Modern Family, and Ellen DeGeneres." That it was actual content, TV shows, films that softened people's hearts, that made them support or not oppose gay marriage. And content, storytelling, TV, film had a huge part in legalizing gay marriage across the country. And so I realized that I wasn't using my biggest tool that I had in my toolbox, that I know how to make movies and TV shows that people watch. And now I was going to make films and TV shows that could make a difference, could make an impact. So I ended up raising $75 million and starting a company called One Community, which is a film and television company for social impact. Our first film that we made was Just Mercy, that we made right before the pandemic and came out right before the pandemic with Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, and Brie Larson. And so now I'm in the film business. We're about to embark on a docuseries with the NBA, focusing first and foremost on the Boston Celtics. Because I don't know if you guys know this sitting in that room, but the guys in Boston have the most players that are deeply engaged in social impact. Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum. So we're going to be doing a series there. So you'll see me in Boston quite often. But being able to now merge my passions for criminal justice reform, my passion for film, television, storytelling, and the ability to make impact is amazing. I mean, leaving the film business, when I went to start ARC, people came out of the woodwork wanting to help. A lot of people didn't call me back, but some did. And so I have to give it up for Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman. She was a huge supporter of the work we were doing. Got a random text from Kim Kardashian, who asked me to be her mentor, never knew her before. Kim's changing the game in the criminal justice space. And so just having so much fun kind of merging these worlds. And it's an honor being there with my guy Noble, James, who was working with on this barbershop project, and just awesome to be with you guys today. God bless you all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Scott. You reminded me of a couple other things that happened while I was out there. Number one, so Magnolia House is the one with the young kids in it, right?
Yeah.
So we was talking about Magnolia House, and this is, people that are coming back from prison. He's like, oh, that house drives me crazy. They cause the most trouble. I'm like, oh, they get in fights? He's like, no, they don't get in fights. They sneak in girls and beer. I was like, oh man, there's another one of my stupid biases that's like comes out and just makes me feel like an idiot. But it was just cool. Like, no, it's innocent stuff. It's not stupid stuff like my brain was telling me. The other thing I noticed when I was at ARC is I think on that day, maybe 3 or 4 guys had just gotten out. The first thing they did was come straight to ARC. They went straight to Scott's office, and he knew every one of them. Like, Scott, I still don't know how that's possible. Like, I don't know how much of your time you're committing to being inside, to being in all these facilities, but every one of those guys knew you personally. You knew their name, right? They were crying, they were hugging, they brought their mom to meet Scott. Like, it was crazy how powerful it was and how much of an impact that you've had your on their lives, Scott. If those were the only 4 people that I knew you'd helped, I'd be impressed. But that was just like a tiny sample of what he does and how he's using his position and his privilege to make a huge difference. So thank you for everything you do, Scott. It's awesome.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So next, Devin McCourty. So Devin, until was through the last season, was a captain of the Patriots. 3 Super Bowl rings. I don't think he wore them. That's cool. I would have liked to see him. I only seen him on TV. But so Devin, as the captain of the Patriots, it's not like being a captain in the Army, right? You're in the Army. I'm going to tell you what you do. You got to go do it. I'm not saying that there aren't good leaders in the Army, but that's not really my definition of leadership, right? My definition of leadership is when you can inspire other people to take action and you're not using your authority. You're not telling them they have to. They do it because they want to, because they believe in the vision you created for them, right? That's why they made Devin captain, because he can lead the team. And we're probably talking about some pretty big egos, right? People that might be a little strong. Yeah, yeah. So when you all leave here, you're probably not going to be the CEO. You're going to be somewhere in the middle of the company, maybe near the top, but unlikely you're going to be CEO of Coke tomorrow. So how can you make a difference if you're not the boss, if you don't have authority? That's where Devin's here.
Well, first, I always start with manage expectations, right? Being a New England Patriot, that's one of the things on the door when you walk in, manage expectations. So Scott goes, Noble goes, so you guys know they killed it. Don't think the same thing of me. Like their stories and what they're doing is awesome. But Devin McCourty just recently retired after 13 years playing for the New England Patriots. And one of the biggest accomplishments that I had even playing for the Patriots was 12 out of my 13 years, like James mentioned, I was a captain. And being on those teams, was the best time of my life. In my 13 years, I went to 5 Super Bowls, won 3 Super Bowls, and I thought that was going to be what I remembered most. You know, one of my Super Bowls happened alongside my twin brother. Like, think about growing up with somebody, do everything together. You both dream to be in the NFL. Most of his career, he sucked. They never won games. Brought him to New England, and we won a Super Bowl. I thought, like, it can't get any better than this. And in 2016, being a team captain, we had another guy on our team, Martellus Bennett, who joined the team. And this was right around the time that there was another police, encounter with community, and another young person died. And LeBron James, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade at the ESPYs that year stood up and was like, no more. Everybody was tweeting, but I just remember saying, like, man, I'm so tired of seeing that. That's what everybody does. And I remember, if you guys follow the Patriots, 2016 was a year Tom got suspended, our starting quarterback, for the first 4 games of the year. And we were in Arizona opening the season, and in a room kind of like this in a hotel, in a ballroom, I stood in front of the guys and I said, obviously it's a big deal. It was 9/11, was the same kind of weekend. And just brief history, I grew up in New York, went to high school in New Jersey. I was a freshman in high school with Mayor Giuliani's son in my high school, my freshman class, when 9/11 happened. So I have friends who had parents in that building, like, fully aware of that. And I spoke to the team and I said, hey, I think we should do something. There's some teams around the league, they're gonna raise their fists, and we have Sunday night football. It'd be a big deal if we did it. And I had a room of guys look back at me, and one of the guys said in the room, not to me, but said to someone else, man, if Tom was here, we wouldn't even be doing this. And that's when I realized, when we went out there right after the national anthem, me and Martellus Bennett, it was only 2 guys, put our fists in the air. And I'm sure the reason why Scott and everyone is doing a documentary here in Boston, that doesn't get received so well. And I remember that next day coming in, and our PR guy handed me a stack of papers like this of all of the emails they got. People saying maybe he should go back to where he's from, cut him, I hope he dies. I mean, down the list of things that you would never expect, right, from the captain, the Super Bowl champion, everybody's favorite person, how fast that changed. And we go out throughout that season, and I started to navigate and try to find ways of how I could have some type of impact. And, fast forward into 2017, we had what we call Listen and Learn. I'm a part of the Players Coalition, which is a bunch of players through a bunch of different sports, soccer, lacrosse, football, basketball, who come together and decide, hey, we want to have impact. Let's do it together. And we set up a Listen and Learn. Again, not to make anybody feel bad, but it was at Harvard Business School. I didn't set it up. I didn't know anybody there. But we do that, and that was the first time we had people who ran their own nonprofits. We had judges, we had public defense. We had so many people there to educate us, and our team president, Jonathan Kraft, came with us there. And in that meeting, someone told us a kid at the age of 7 could get in trouble in school and then be dragged into a courtroom, and their criminal record would start at the age of 7. And I'll never forget, our team president, Jonathan Kraft, said, what? Like, scream. And everybody kind of stepped back, and he left that meeting. He called legislators, like, he wanted to double down. He wanted to find out if it was true. He called around and called people and found out it was true. And it really changed. It was probably the first part that changed everything going forward for me and the team. And then during the 2017 season, when the former guy they call president came out with Kaepernick and said, those sons of bitches need to stand up. And I remember, because we talk about change, how do you create change? I think people see what the Patriots do now, all the things we're involved in, but the origin story really that started in 17. When that happened, I still remember, it happened on a Friday night. So the way football set up, Saturday morning, you have morning meetings, you have a gap. We had a home game where you get to go home, be with your family, prepare. Then we have night meetings at a hotel, and we sleep at the hotel. So all Saturday morning, that's all we talked about. Then we went into meetings. We got out of meetings. That's all we talked about. What the president said. What are we going to do? What are we going to do at the game tomorrow during the national anthem? This was a time where everybody was taking the knee. We didn't do that at the time. We were locking arms during the national anthem. And then the night meeting, same thing. So we come in, we have a 1 o'clock game all Sunday morning. I'm one of the senior guys. I'm a captain. Everybody keeps coming up to me. Dev, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are we going to do? So I felt like as a captain, I wasn't comfortable doing this, but I had someone once tell me to be a leader, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And we have every home game the game's at 11. We have We have an 11 o'clock meeting just so to make sure everybody's there. So it's probably like 10:55. Bill Belichick, head coach, comes around the corner. I say, Bill, can I talk to you for a second? So we go into a small office. And I said, hey, you know, there's a lot of chatter going on in the locker room. A lot of guys are really angry and guys want to take a knee, but I know how you feel and I don't want it to be as a surprise. And I just wanted to get your feedback. And he told me, I'm going to stand. That's what I do. And I understood that. And I said, cool. And I'm the type of person, very thought out, I would say, follow the rules. But at other times, I will move at the beat of my own drum. And when he said that to me, I don't think he meant it in a way of, I don't really care, but that's how I took it. I took it as it wasn't important. The game was important. What I was talking about wasn't important. So when I walked back in the locker room, I'll never forget, Brandon Bolden was the first person I was walked in. He said, what we doing? I said, I don't know what anybody else is doing, but I know what I'm doing. I'm taking the knee. And I think it was one of the first times. Probably we have one of our team execs here, Robin Glazer, who's been there longer than me, 17 years, probably knows never have we had kind of a split in anything we ever do. Like it's honestly one of the best organizations you can be in from having one point of view and doing things. And during the national anthem that day, we looked like a disorganized, just a terrible bunch. We had about 20 guys on one side of the field taking a knee. We had the other group standing. The other group had no idea guys were taking a knee. We have somebody singing. We have the whole crowd booing. I mean, it was a complete shit show at the game. We played Houston. Again, we probably should have won. We did end up winning. Probably should have handled better. The game came down to a late, like 40-yard pass in the corner of the end zone. That's the only way. Like, we just won the game. And the next day, we had an impromptu captain's meeting, obviously, because of the shit show. As you guys will see, when you go to work at companies, you're an employee. So when things don't go right, the big bosses, the people who care about the brand and everything are like, what the hell just happened? It was a surprise to everybody. So in that captain's meeting, we just talked like, hey, was that a distraction? And, you know, again, like I said, I'm well thought out. I gave people the chance to talk and no one said anything. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it was a distraction. But I said, I think the distraction came from we didn't talk about it. I said, so the distraction was the whole time leading up into the game. Since we didn't talk about it, the whole locker room talk was about it. That's what every guy wanted to know about because it is important. We have young men in here that when the president said that, that went to their heart, that hurt their heart. They felt some type of way. And for us as players, what I learned was we have a platform. So when we took a knee that day after the game, I was the first guy to go out and speak to the media. And someone asked me, are you aware, like, people would rather you do that on your own time? And I said, I'm fully aware of that. I said, but if I told you and I posted on my social media and said, hey, at this time, I'm going to hold a meeting in Boston Commons, I would love everyone to come. I said, how many people would come? Maybe 100, maybe. I said, but if it's a Sunday afternoon and it's a 1:06 kickoff and it's 1:04 and we're doing the national anthem and I take a knee, I said, how many people are engaged now? 70,000 in the stadium, couple million people watching. I said, so why am I doing it right now? I said, because I have the platform. I said, look at all the people in this room asking me questions. Do you want to know why? I said, so now I get to talk to you about some of the things I've learned from being in the community, being with different people who are in these rooms, meeting people. And from there, we wrote an op-ed in the newspaper in Boston, myself, Jonathan Kraft, Robert Kraft, and we wrote an op-ed about raising the age of juvenile justice. And that bill passed, and we raised the age, the low end, from 7 to 12. You know, I think all of the things now, when I look back at my career, now that I'm retired, and you ask me what are the things you're most proud of, I'm probably going to name 3 or 4 things before we even get to the football field, because those things that I did off the field, I never would have imagined. Like, I dreamed about winning a Super Bowl. When I got in the NFL and I got drafted to the Patriots, I was, oh shit, I'm gonna win a Super Bowl. Like, I'm on the Patriots. But the other things, going to the State House and fighting for a bill to get passed, because when they did a study in Boston public schools, we're falling about $1 billion short to have equal playing field for all kids. And we went, myself, Matthew Slater, my brother Jason McCourty, and Deron Harmon sat in front of a panel of people, and we testified to getting that money. And I remember sitting there and telling the people, I'm more nervous sitting here than I was warming up to playing a Super Bowl, because I never thought I would be in that arena. And when that bill passed and they brought in a large amount of money to help, I was like, wow. Like, when we're a part of something, like our platform here in Massachusetts, like, we can create change. And then the ultimate thing, really, again, I mentioned Robin, but due to Robin and what she's able to do from a team exec standpoint of when I go and probably sometimes do things that are just aggressive, and she has a great relationship with the craft. She tells them like, hey, this is why he's doing it. We talk. But a year ago today, we started a process. Well, I guess 2 years ago today, we started a process. A guy, William Allen, who at the time when we first started was in prison for 27 years. I won't get all the way into his story, but he was in prison for joint venture felony. A felony happened while he was there. He was a part of it. He didn't commit the felony, but because he was there and was a part of it, he got sentenced to life without parole. The person who did commit the crime took a plea deal because he understood the law at the time, took a plea deal, got out in 11 years. And when I got a part of it, William was in prison 27 years while the person who committed the crime had already been out of prison after 11 years. And they brought me in and it was like, hey, we want to get a sentence commuted. It hasn't happened in 25 years. And I was like, I don't know. Like, at the time, me and my wife, we had lost our third child, our daughter, during COVID in 2020. She was 8.5 months pregnant. We lost our daughter. So when the person first reached out to me, I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm playing football, which I probably shouldn't have been playing and should have been home, but I have a lot going on. I'm just not sure. And we finished the season, and he gets back in touch with me. He's like, hey, I just want you to jump on a Zoom with this guy, see what you like, see if you want to get involved. And I jump on the Zoom, and I have the numbers written down on my phone, but I remember his Zoom ID comes up with just numbers. And right there was a reminder of where he was at. He wasn't a person, he was a number. And I started talking to him, and he started talking about learning how to cut hair while he was in prison, and what he wanted to do was a peer advocate. How when he was at Bridgewater State, they had a man who was mentally ill and nobody would go by him, obviously because it was COVID, and he would go sit with this man every day, and he has lupus, and he got COVID, and his lawyer's like, you got to stop doing that. He's like, no, like, this is my calling, this is my role. And from right then and there, I was like, I'm in. Like, let's figure it out. How can I get involved? What can we do? And from that, we had to go to the governor in many different ways and try to get him to commute this sentence, something that seemed impossible. And I remember one time Robin saw the governor at an event, and she called me and she was like, I need every detail. The governor's here. I'm going up to him right now. And I was like, Robin, I don't know about, and walks right up to, at the time, Governor Baker, and was like, let me tell you about Devin McCourty and what he's doing. And probably in like 45 seconds, she ran the whole story. And last year, this day, his sentence got commuted. And I remember when I got the call, and this is how crazy it is to fast forward back in 2016, the first time I raised a fist. I remember Jonathan Kraft called me, wasn't supposed to call me, and was like, hey, I just talked to some people, William's gonna get out. How does Jonathan Kraft know William Allen? And it was strictly because whatever you believe in at times, you just got to fearlessly go after it. I knew what I was doing. I knew there was a chance the Patriots could say, hey, you're a good player, you've been a captain, but hey, you're over 30, buddy. It's your time. Like, everything you're doing off the field, we're not with it. And that was my assumption of what I thought might happen. But little did I know, people didn't know. The crafts didn't understand or know everything that was going on. So when I started doing these things, they were like, wow, tell us more. We want to get involved. And William got out May 3rd. It was probably like mid-May or the end of May. He came and spoke to the team. So here a guy from Brockton, Massachusetts, had never been to Gillette Stadium, never been to a game, was standing in front of his favorite team as a kid, giving a message, and giving a message about hope, about the impact you can have using your platform. And for me, as now a retired guy and trying to figure out what I want to do next, I want to get into TV and doing sports broadcasting. And one of the biggest reasons is everything I've done off the field. I know when I retire, like that platform is not the same. But I know if I get on TV and I could do a good job and put the same effort I put into playing football on TV, if I could grow my platform there, I'll still have a platform to use and to inspire and to help other people out. So everyone in this room, you're already probably doing great things and you have even bigger things in front of you. So as you take all this information in, and obviously Scott's story, you're at the top of the game and doing something and you decide to change it all up, how scary that had to be for you guys going into new environments. Anytime you go into new, take your history, take your experiences, take them with you, share them. That's the biggest thing you can do to help people. Share Noble's story. Tell a friend when you go home today, call a parent, call somebody who thought maybe when they see a guy like Noble, they have all these negative things. Tell them his story. Tell them this dude's in Harvard and Columbia. He's walking into places probably like, damn, man, y'all see me? Like that is a huge, but I think that's how you create change. Telling other people's story, being inspired by their story. And again, I'm very humble to be here on this panel with so many great people. What Noble does, what all them do at TPP, I got introduced like, I guess a month ago and went to one of these restorative justice circles. And they know when I walked in one of them, as a retired guy, I sat next to a young man. As soon as I walked in, they was like, yeah, he might retire. Oh, he washed. Oh, he sucks. I mean, going right at it. I didn't say a word to the young man. And by the end of it, we were laughing, we were joking, and we had a good time because, again, he was like 16, 17 years old. Like, he didn't know any different. He just knew what he knew. But again, if you get an opportunity, there's so many great things going on here in Boston. I would just encourage you, don't wait, get involved, go to a restorative justice circle, Google some nonprofits. You're at MIT. They love to have you in there. Go learn, go be around things, see it firsthand. I think you'll be blown away. So appreciate everybody listening to me today. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, Devin. One of the things that Devin talked about, you heard Scott talk about, is like how gratifying this work is to help people that really need it. And I'll also tell you, like, in the past year and a half since Scott sort of put me on this path, I have met more amazing people, more people like, can you help? Yep. Like, Devin, I'd never met you before today, right? Can you come talk? Yep, no problem. Like, no problem. Like, people want to help, and it's really gratifying, and it's cool, and you can make a lot of progress. Before I let Vic loose to get you guys all fired up, we're going to do a little reflection. So I just would like to hear people like, what are you thinking? What of your own biases are you sort of now more aware of that you have and didn't know about before? What questions do you have for the panel? So I'll start with mine. The first time, I always had this now foolish notion that it doesn't matter where you grow up. If you just work hard, keep your head down, stick on the path, don't get in trouble, you'll do great. And then when I listen to Noble, I'm like, no, that is just not true. Like, I can't imagine if I grew up the way Noble grew up, if I went through what he went through, that I wouldn't end up in the same place, that I wouldn't end up in prison, that I wouldn't have to dig out of that hole. Like, I don't think I've got anything that you don't have. I think you're probably a lot more self-aware than almost anyone I know. So that sort of unearthed my bias. Like, you just need to work hard. Then no, that's not it, right? There's more that we need to do for our communities. So that's my first big reflection and learning that I got from Noble and Armand. What are people thinking? What did you notice? What do you want to talk about? What are you feeling? I will cold call. There you go, Luis. Does that work?
Yeah. Cool. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your life's experiences over here. I'm sorry. Coming from a developing country, I sympathize with many of the stories that you told here. So there are people everywhere. I'm from Brazil, so I've seen some similar but different experiences in the past. But I want to hear something that, how was, you broke the ice several times. You were extremely innovative in the things that you did. And you took a lot of. And of course, today you have a reputation. Afraid of doing things at certain points in your life, because the higher you go, you still are challenging, boundaries, frontiers, people, cultures, beliefs, or you are beyond any fear in your actions.
I'm a black man in America. I have no fear. I know my history, and if I'm changing the world or not, I'm not gonna be killed any day. I have a responsibility for my son and for my family to make a difference, and I'm okay getting killed or murdered making a difference. I have zero fear. My own campaign coming home was to be unapologetic, and I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna continue doing that.
Thanks, Luis.
How you doing? Steve from...
Try to use the mic, please.
Oh, sure. How you doing, everybody? Steven from the Career Development Office. These issues hit close to home for me, right? I had a father who was, a returning citizen, formerly incarcerated. So when you tell your story about your son and kind of redeveloping that relationship, there's a bunch of boys that are looking for fathers or replacements of their fathers in their lives. So I commend you on that. What I'm resonating on, being in this community as a community member, as a staff member, there are certain issues that affect me and my community at high rates, right? And you can advocate for change as strongly as possible, but until you get others to advocate for you that maybe don't share in those experiences, the needle sometimes doesn't move. And it seems like there's a baseline of understanding that you got to bring everybody to. You were kind of talking about that, getting to that baseline. Can you tell me anything that you do to maybe calm yourself so that you don't have the visceral reaction of people saying, "Well, I never knew that. I didn't know that affected your community in that way." Do you do anything to kind of reset the meter? Do you do anything to stay calm, to kind of keep the emotion even keeled? Can you talk about that a little bit for me?
I do groundings. I'm triggered a lot, right? I have my brother Amon here. We was both in prison together, right? So having a community around me that we's in prison together and we understand, so we rally around each other. My wife supports me, so I really people have that wow moment. I just I take it as it is, right? And I take it from there, and the goal is to continue to work with people. Like me telling my story, this is never easy. It's never going to get easy for me. Speaking about my trauma, what I've been through, what I survived, I'm still living in survival, right? I didn't start to dream until I came home. And someone asked me, why don't you dream? Because I've been living a nightmare my whole life. I didn't have time to dream, but I realized, right, I feel like everything happened for a reason, and I have a fire in me that's not going to, I tried to give up so many times. I have a fire that would not burn out. And so grounding myself, regrouping with my team, and I have amazing support, and my support is the people I was inside with and my wife, my family. So it's really just taking a step back. I do a lot of breathing. I walk and breathe. Like I really have some days where it's like, you know what? I got to take a step back and just breathe. And I have a spot. I ain't gonna tell you my spot's at because I don't want no one there. But I have a spot I go to that really. When I was in pre-release, I was actually able to leave, like to go. And I was in Concord Farms, able to leave and go clean up the beach, and I did that for almost a year. And today I still go back to that same beach, and it reminds me of where I was cleaning up this beach. Now I'm in my car down walking the same beach, and there's so many men and women that's still inside. So people can say they don't know, but once I speak in front of people and tell them what it is, they can't say that no more. So it's more about just spreading the word and just grounding myself and relying on the team that I have around me.
I just want to thank all three of y'all for sharing. Really, really enjoy what I've been hearing and appreciate the vulnerability and the transparency in these stories. A couple things that resonated with me. One thing that I wrote down, Noble, you shared, that there were so many crimes committed against you before you ever committed your first crime. That really resonated with me. So I have two questions. The first one for you, Noble, is what would have been a good intervention for the younger you, right? What would have been the thing that community could have provided, resource-wise, support-wise, that would have supported you during that time? And then all three of the panelists, I'm curious, there's been a lot of wins, in the policy space, what are y'all looking towards next? What's the next thing that y'all looking to champion to kind of make the difference?
I needed Amon. I needed because he has a lived experience, right? I'm gonna be honest. I was running my own gang. I'm not gonna listen to anyone that don't understand where I'm coming from. So having people that have that lived experience to be around me and rally around me, those would have been a game changer for me. And that's why we're doing today. TPP is doing just that. We're in the juvenile system and we're in the court system. And one of the kids said to me was like, "We do these programs all the time, but it's the first time someone looked like me." Right, and that's the big difference, having that lived experience and having that reflection.
Just the second part of your question, I think one of the biggest spaces too is education. I think just continuing to push equal education, having that equity in education. Here in Massachusetts, still, it's a huge gap in just what education you get determined by where you live. And I've been to different schools where some classrooms are done out in the hallway, and I've been to some schools that look like MIT, looks like a college campus. So I think the funding for that, even though we got that bill passed, I've gone around since then, and there's so many people who are like, that didn't do anything. That money's still not accounted for. I'm just an athlete, so I've gotten to be involved in some of the political kind of, I remember I sat with the Black and Latino caucus, and they were talking about the different issues, and they were like, yeah, that was in session 2 years ago, that didn't get resolved. This is in session this year, it probably won't get resolved. And I said to them, I was like, damn, you guys get to sit here and not resolve issues and you don't get fired? I was baffled. I said, in my profession, I said, literally, I watch a young person, a man, almost get cut and get fired once a week. At least once a week, someone gets fired in our job. When we go to training camp with 90 guys, at the end of it, we have to go to 53. I watched grown men come in there crying because they thought they competed well enough to make a team. They only have 3 weeks to make a team. I said, you guys go a full year. Don't make a decision. So at that time, that school, that bill that was up there, there was a group of class, it was 2015, I think, or 14, where they ran this commission and they saw from the commission, all right, we're about $1 billion short. And each year for the next 5 years, they went in session, they all knew the results, and they went back and forth. The governor's people, back and forth, back. I said, you guys realize a whole class came in as freshmen and graduated, and you didn't make one change. So you didn't come together and agree on some magical number, whatever the number is. I said, no one agreed to help the students because it was more important to get the win. And so people say to me, are you gonna ever run for office? I'm like, hell no. I was like, they would probably either kill me or fire me because they're like, this dude going against the grain too much. So that was just my 2 cents, I'm sure.
Anyone else?
Alex?
Yeah, so thank you to everyone else that said too. I really appreciate all of you sharing your stories. One of the things I was reflecting on that you just commented on was how you balance, especially for a lot of these very big systemic issues, kind of against the grain with like the kind of pressure from the societal pressure from from everyone else who are telling you to like stay in the lane. And I know that that's something that can be very, very challenging to do. And so how do you work through those issues and bring these problems to light and shift people's perspectives on them at the systemic level and at the individual level?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I had to learn to do was even take my biases out of it. You know, I thought a lot of times I had this feeling of like, there's no point in me telling certain people because they don't care. And I saw that firsthand in 2020 when George Floyd got killed. And you remember like the same people who, 2 to 3 years prior, I was talking about these issues, was looking at me like, well, why are you doing this? Just shut up and go play football. Like, we're not interested. And now all of a sudden it was like, all right, let's talk about this. Let's do this. And I was like, oh, now, like Noble has even more of a reason, but I had to check myself because I was angry. I'm like the messages I got and felt like totally excluded to a certain extent. And I was a guy who I was always doing stuff in the community. And I was just like, man, everything that I built up, my reputation, my character, I was like, I stand up on one thing and everyone was ready to throw that out the window. And I think you have to first be comfortable with who you are. You have to know, all right, what I'm about to embark and engage in, I truly believe in it. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who don't. There's going to be a lot of people who are ignorant, who don't know because their fear of the unknown, they're going to shut me down. You have to know that. And I think the second thing is there's strength in numbers. Like you talk about individually, big corporations, like there's strength in numbers. And the Players Coalition was started, 2 guys, Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden. And the main thought of it was there's a bunch of individual players doing certain work. If just those individual players do that, in 3 to 4 years, they'll all be out the league. The way our league works is a young man's league. So no matter what, if you cause an issue and you start to get older, they're going to find a way for you to be gone. But we start to say like, hey, if there's 200, 300, 500 players that all believe in this, they can't get rid of all of us. They can't do that. And I think that's the biggest thing. Even if my main objective might be a little different than yours, we still can find ways to partner, because if we partner and then everybody that believes in you will come along, everybody that believes in me, and now you look up, we're fighting a system, but we're fighting a system with numbers. And now we take everybody's individual talents and we group that together. We have a chance. You look at TPP, it might have started in a prison where a few men came together, but when they got out, it was like, we got to recruit, we got to bring different people in. I might not know that person as well, but at some point I got to branch out and trust. And from then I got connected to them, not from knowing anybody. It was somebody that's not even in this room was like, hey, we're doing this thing. I think you would love it. Come on by. And I think that is the biggest thing, because as you bring in those numbers and you bring in, I thought like what Scott said, Will and Grace, Ellen, like you bring in those names, then certain people like, oh, wow, I love Ellen. If Ellen's gay and she's happy with it, maybe I should listen. But, you could have had a bunch of other people saying the same thing, but for somebody that wouldn't have related, wouldn't have made sense to them, they wouldn't have cared. So I think it's the strength in numbers, it's having true conviction in what you believe in. And then every once in a while, if you can get a couple celebrities involved in something or people of importance, it's a big deal. I do a ton of work in sickle cell, and we've always laughed and jokes. Like I know a bunch of doctors, but if there was ever like a mega star that had sickle cell, or had a kid that had sickle cell and said, I want to devote all my time, because like that's how things move in our society. It's sad to a certain extent. Like you guys are at MIT, you're brilliant, but people will listen to me as an athlete who might not know anything about a subject. I think about how many people that I don't listen to because they're famous. People are like, hey, I want to listen to what they say. I'm like, why? They don't know anything about that subject matter. But I think it is crucial for people like me to go and be at TPP, understand Noble's story. So when I talk, I don't tell my, like, you don't care about my story about me scoring touchdowns. Like, you want to hear his story, and I need to learn his story. I need to be and understand what he's gone through, what people like him gone through, to go tell those stories. And I think that's key. I think you guys have a different platform than somebody like Noble. You have a totally different platform. So when you tell his story, those people listening, he might have never been able to reach, but you reach that by listening to him and being able to spread it. So I think that's one of the key things. And start with telling a few people and see how fast it grows.
I'd say you have a platform and a responsibility in your future roles to make a difference. One final comment.
Do I answer?
I don't.
So I was noticing a theme in all of the things that you said. Now, you mentioned license plates. We heard about a number on Zoom, and we just heard about just the way, just like the treatment of people who are in our prison system. And I know, and we've also been talking about policy, and I want to pick up on Tracy's comment. We know that about a couple decades ago, Massachusetts passed this law that said you can't vote if you're a prisoner, right? And our friend Ms. Miranda, who actually spoke in the class last year, is trying to revive that conversation to bring voice back to people who are in the prison system. I'm just curious, what would that mean for prisoners to be able to actually vote again and have their voice be heard? Because policymakers aren't listening anymore. They're not calling, they're not visiting, they don't know what's going on anymore. What would that mean?
What it would mean is be a little part of being a citizen again, right? Especially what I was told is you pay taxes, you should be able to have say so what goes on in America. And when I was incarcerated, I was paying taxes while I was incarcerated. What people don't know is like you have to pay taxes on certain things you buy off a canteen. So by us having a voice will allow us to really make a difference in our community. So now we have to go to other people that have no clue what's going on in our community and convince them why we should get help or have these services, right? So it'll be a big game changer for us to be able to vote and be able to change laws and not have to depend on the next person when we could do it ourselves. As you look at these underserved communities, people that's really doing the major work is the ones in the community. So that's I want Amon to add on too. You want to add because I know we working on that for the voting rights to get back inside of prison.
Yeah, I would say that because I was in prison when they actually stopped the voting, and so I went to prison in 1990. I was 17 years old. I came out in 2019. I was 46 years old. But when I went to prison, it was a different dynamic. There was no vendors selling you food. There was no vendors selling you clothes. There was no exploitation over the phones. Basically, you had regular phone services. However, the way all that eroded and was taken away correlated exactly when the votes were taken. So you take the vote away from people, and then politicians no longer had the really ability to actually serve those people. And it's sad because the majority of people who are in these counties like Norfolk, I forget what Shirley County is, are really people that come from populations that are inner city populations, right? Urban populations, and their numbers are still counted under under Norfolk County numbers. They're not counted under Suffolk County numbers, so it caused a whole misrepresentation of kind of like slavery. It's kind of like slavery in the South. I mean, like I said, slavery by another name. So it's a lot of things that eroded and took place, and not a responsibility and accountability and dehumanization, all correlated with the taking of the vote. We was able to form political committees. A lot of actions took place. All these things that's like don't happen anymore because the people don't have the right to vote. So it's an important thing, and people don't feel like they're citizens anymore, right? So if you don't feel like you're a citizen anymore, and you live under that "I'm not a citizen" for decades, which I did, you might come home and be like, you know what, I'm still ain't a citizen, and I'm gonna act up, right? But if you have a level of accountability, responsibility, I'm a citizen, I'm still active, that carries on to when you come out. So it's still a public safety issue as well, but people don't look at it like that.
All right, so while I think Devin's right that he doesn't want to get into politics, Bethany's actually trying to get into politics. So make sure you exchange cards. She can probably help you. Yeah. Okay, so late in the semester, we need a little motivation. That's why I brought my man Vic Blends here. So Vic, if you don't know him, which is hard to do, 14 million followers. Vic is 24 years old, right? So I think I told you this, right? I didn't really think I could be inspired by a guy that was less than half my age. But he's awesome, right? And Vic came from a tough neighborhood. He gives back to his neighborhood all the time. If you see his posts, he's always doing basketball courts, events, 1,000 haircuts a day, all those things. So Vic's job is to get you fired up, because then we're going to give you some ideas on how to get started. Robin brought a bunch of resources we can talk about, and just like ways you can get started. But late in the semester, we want to get you fired up, and brought in Vic Blends.
I don't know how much more fired up you could get from 3-time Super Bowl champ. We got Noble in the house, man. I mean, look, you put the pressure on for sure, man. Wow, how y'all feeling? Y'all good, man. Y'all should stretch or something, man. We should look. Everybody should get up and hit a little stretch, you know, like wave your arms or something, man. Look, we've been sitting down for a little minute, man. Y'all should, just get loose, man. Like, look, we all been sitting. It's all good. Everybody take a little stretch. We gotta get it out. Is the mic on? This mic works? Yeah, man. It's all right to be a little tired. Yeah, I'm tired too. I've been sitting too, man. I had to get up, get moving. All right, man, it's a pleasure to meet all of you guys. My name is Victor Fontanez. I am 24 years old, like James said. I'm a young guy, so I'm originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina. And for me, I started cutting hair in my mom's garage at 17 years old at the beginning of the senior year of my high school year. And it was supposed to just be a side hustle for me, right? I thought I was going to go somewhere prestigious like MIT, one of these days. And, I was hoping just to pick up clippers to cut hair in the dorms and make $5, $10. All right, that was all I was supposed to do with it. I didn't think I would ever be a barber. I didn't think that I was going to be something that I wanted to do in my life, but I had a hustle. I had hustle, I had heart, and I really believed in people for some odd reason, right? Being from a very small town where it's kind of a crabs in a barrel mentality, it's hard to have a lot of faith in others, but when you grow up in a barbershop, there's something about community that is just extremely special. And for us growing up in a barbershop, we've realized that community starts there. Culture starts there. Love, stories, history, sports is everything. The pain, the stories. There's something special about being in a barbershop. So when I started that venture and I first picked up the clippers, and let me tell y'all, the only reason I picked it up is because my barber told me that if I learn how to cut hair, that I could make money for the rest of my life. So when I heard the rest of my life and money are the same thing, I don't know about y'all, but I had to see what it was talking about. So the hustle in me at 17 heard that, and I'm coming into senior year. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. Right, I saw all of my best friends get accepted to their #1 pick colleges. I got friends going to MIT. I got friends going to all these other schools, and everybody's got this clarity on their life. I wasn't as gifted as Devin. I wasn't hitting the field like that, man. I didn't have it. I wasn't the greatest athlete. I'm starting to think like, man, what is it that I am going to do with my life? And what is out here for me to do with my life? What was the vision going to be for me? And like I told y'all, barbering's supposed to be a side hustle. I'm supposed to cut for $5 in the dorms. That was it. So when I picked up clippers, I picked it up with an open heart, which is probably the most important thing that I could say today is to do something with an open heart. Because when I picked up clippers, I started to see the love that my barbers had first poured into me, growing up in those neighborhoods and just having the mentorship to be in the shop and to be able to share love, to be able to share energy with somebody. So when I started doing that in my garage to my high school friends, to my little brothers, and to the people in the neighborhood, it was extremely special because I got to understand what it meant to be part of a community and what it meant to not only just be a part of it, but to be a pillar in that community, which is extremely important because, I could agree, I could maybe speak for all of us in the room. We got a lot of big ideas and big goals here in this room, right? Like everybody, like we said, everybody in here is amazing, right? We got guys winning Super Bowl champions, right? We got people beating the odds, coming home and changing the course of their whole lineage, man, through what we're doing here. And I know all y'all in here in this room want to do something big, right? Or y'all wouldn't be at MIT, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But everybody in here is here because we believe in a common factor that we're here to do something greater for this world. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. When I started cutting hair, I just didn't think that I was going to be able to do something like that. I felt like I was settling in a way for myself, but I had faith in that process. And I knew that what I would do in my life, I really didn't have as much control as I probably really thought I was gonna have doing it. Because I couldn't go back to that time and tell you that, you know, a 17-year-old kid from the Ville couldn't hear in his mom's garage should be able to be, you know, where we are today. But I know that along that journey, you know, it was a lot of adversity, a lot of testing. You know, I don't want to kill y'all with my story, but, you know, started in my mom's garage, and when I knew I wasn't going to take a college route, I had to go ahead and bet on myself. I had to go ahead and bet on the vision that I believe that God gave me for my life. And I remember not getting accepted to really any schools. I didn't have the best SAT. I remember taking the SAT 3 times, y'all. I couldn't get over 900. I took the SAT 3 times, man. I couldn't get over 900. So I'm sitting here looking at what I do have around me, and I'm trying to decide what is there for me to do with it. How do I take something that I've been given, that I feel is a gift, and how do I allow this thing to fulfill me? Because my first notion was to make the money. All right, that was what drove me. I wanted to make money. I wanted to get in my pocket, man. I wanted to figure it out. Very quickly in that journey, I learned that life is bigger than our own pockets. It's a lot bigger than your own pockets. And if you believe that you're going to do something out here to change this world, because you want you a new whip or a new car, they're like, man, you gotta look for something deeper than that. I'm just being honest with y'all. You know, I don't know what drives everybody in this room, but I would hope that what drives you in this room is bigger than your own pockets. So as I started cutting hair, I remember getting this clear message from God telling me that if I took it serious, it would open doors for me. And when I came into that decision of what I was going to be doing, I knew that, you know, that sign right there was enough to scare me to say, I got to go and jump and see what this could do for me. So I decided to go to barber school right after graduation. Right, that's a technical school. So I remember making a promise to my parents that if they let me go and get my barber's license, I'll go to college right after. I said, yo, if y'all let me go, as soon as I finish, I'm signing up. And I knew in my head, man, I was gonna do whatever it took to make sure I didn't have to go to college. I wasn't academically gifted. I don't know what to say. Like I couldn't figure it out in a classroom. I couldn't really put it together. And you know, I knew I was good at cutting hair. I was grinding hard at it. I was making a couple bucks, and man, I had to go and see what I could do. And I had to really weigh my opportunity chance at that time. Right? I was 21 at the time, 20 years old. And I had a chance to do something with my craft that the world has never seen before. I had an opportunity to speak for a generation that has not seen somebody speak in the way that we should be speaking about. Like I saw the opportunity to be 21 and I had a chance to change my generation. There's nothing against being in a school or going to do those things, but I saw the road less traveled by and I saw faith in it. So upon cutting hair, I got really good at it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm really fine. I'm probably the Devin McCourty of cutting hair. Like I'm really the one, man. I'm really the one. So I put my 10,000 hours in, and you know I'm grinding hard. You know I'm going to barber school. As I'm in barber school, man, I'm cutting NBA players in school. I'm getting out of my license. I'm getting to the money. The money's coming in. Skills getting far. You name it, man. Next big step, get out of my hometown. Fayetteville, North Carolina, extremely special place. Really special, very small town. And I told y'all, man, it's like, you know, crabs in a barrel mentality. You know, one person grabbing up and, you know why the crabs can get out the barrel? Do anybody know? Yeah, what? Cause what? Yeah, the crabs
keep pulling them back down.
Right, you make a couple steps up that ladder, somebody in your community they're gonna pull you right down. It's a hard thing to do because everybody's going through the same
Handcuffs, can I? Yeah, you can.
shit. So because everybody's going through the same thing, we started to look at each other like, why are you doing this and I'm not? Or why are you making a little progress and I'm not? Or y'all may look at each other in this room and say, well, I'm going through the same thing. Why he passing the test and I'm not? Why he getting this and I'm not? Why his business going this way and I'm not? I had to stop looking at others real quick in my life. And I had to look at my own decisions. And I had to take responsibility for where I wanted to be at. So I decided to move to Atlanta, Georgia. Because I got this analogy that I always use, man. And sometimes I feel like we the right seed with the right soil sometimes, but not enough sunlight and water. Does that make sense to y'all? Like sometimes you the right seed with the right soil, but not enough sunlight and water. And your surrounding and what you intake has a big effect on the way that you will grow. There's nothing wrong with Fayetteville, but it was a lot wrong with my actions as a young man and what I decided to put my energy and my focus towards. You know, I chose to be a product of my environment. I chose to look and focus on the things that I did. And although I was focused on the business, I was always focused on a lot of other stuff that I shouldn't have. Whole lot of friends, whole lot of pain, whole lot of trauma coming from a place like that that I allowed to really define myself as a man as I was growing up. Now, I know now, looking back, that those things are not things that define you, but you really define how you tackle that adversity and get over it. So when I came to Atlanta, Georgia, I had no friends and no family. I'd never been to this city before in my life. I got an apartment sight unseen. Never seen it before. I had a budget in my mind that I needed to spend less than $1,000 to go and get somewhere to live. Now, $1,000 in Fayetteville will get you something real nice, y'all. When you come to Atlanta, I didn't get it. Like I didn't understand. Like, yo, my money not really gonna stretch out here like I think it is. But it didn't matter because I had to get out. I had to go and get the sunlight and water I needed to grow. I had to go and put myself in a position where I feel like I could have been seen or heard or even been close enough to take an opportunity I felt could change my life. So I found the first apartment for $900, man. I said, yo, can y'all take me next month? They said, I could take y'all next month, man. I drive up on my one day off. Man, we pull up. I got a U-Haul, man. Get my first apartment in Atlanta, and I'm out, right? I come to Atlanta, y'all, and I do everything that I ever dreamed I could have done with the craft of barbering. Man, I'm cutting every celebrity, every rapper, every athlete, you name it. I'm on it. I'm charging $100 plus a haircut. And I'm getting to the money. Just like I said I was gonna do right from the beginning. I got it. Then COVID comes. I'm like, damn. We gotta be out of shop for what, 2 weeks? All right, cool. You know, I'm building my social media at the time, getting a couple followers online. It was all based on my craft. It was based on what I did. I was a barber. I was good at it. I was young. I was popping. I was sharp. I was cutting whoever came through the city. I was making the money. And then one day you got to wake up and understand that you can't do that no more. Right? And at that moment, I knew that there was something that had to change in my life. So in the midst of the pandemic, as I built my life to be known as the person that could do it all with a pair of clippers, I had to really sit there and redefine who I am and what I was going to be doing with my life. So there's a quote that I heard in the midst of that moment, man, that changed my life. And do y'all got pen and paper? What are y'all doing in college? Y'all got something to write down? Could y'all write something down for me real quick? Like, I don't care if y'all got your phone, whatever y'all got, man, like, please. Cause I ain't got that long in here, but I need to leave y'all with something. So if y'all could write something down, I don't care how y'all write it down, man. You know, pull something out, write something down. Cause I'm telling you, this quote right here changed my life, man. I wouldn't be the same without it. The quote that changed my life was, y'all ready? Don't let what you're good at define who you are. Who are you if you can't do what you're good at? Don't let what you're good at define who you are. Who are you if you can't do what you're good at? So I built my whole life, my whole career up to being the barber, the one, charging the most I could have charged for a haircut, cutting every celebrity, man. I'm traveling state to state, getting flown. I'm on PJs for cuts, you name it. I wake up one day, I can no longer do that. The thing that saved me the thing that took me out of my hometown, the thing that gave me an opportunity to eat, I can't do it no more. Now I gotta ask myself, who is Victor Fontanez if I can never cut hair again? At that moment, I had to understand that God blessed my voice a long time ago before he blessed my hands. And that in this life, there's a lot more out there for you to achieve than the things that you could touch physically. There's more to life than catching a ball. There's more to life than writing a business model out or getting a promotion. I had to understand what would really drive myself to feel fulfilled. Because I had it all, y'all. All the money, all the connections, all the lifestyle. I got to sit at home and think, if I can never cut another head again, what is there left for me to offer to this world? And at that moment, I had to really discover my voice and adapt and adapt to the adversity that was around me. Finding my voice allowed me to understand that maybe I could do a lot more than just the person that's sitting in my chair. So through this pandemic, I started speaking. I started making videos because I wanted to cope with myself. I really wanted to get something off my chest, and I would hope that somebody would feel me. So when we got a chance to come out of that pandemic, I said, I'm never doing it like that again. I'm taking my talent, I'm going to the streets, I'm gonna cut a stranger. Because I believe that my voice is gonna take me further than anything. I believe that a cut could get me so far, but I thought that my voice, I thought that the energy that I could provide for somebody and the way that I could make somebody think could travel further than what one cut could possibly do. So I didn't want to go cut another celebrity. I didn't want to take any more money for a haircut. I wanted to do something that would fulfill me beyond what I could ever touch physically. And when I started cutting these strangers on the streets, it was really to open up a conversation about the things that we feel we stand on the island for. So I know all y'all in this room right now, because it's a human experience, we go through things. Right? Could we agree? Right? Because all y'all grinding right now. Y'all about to get y'all masters. Y'all about to go do it. And in the midst of you trying to save the world, your community, your legacy, you trying to heal the world through all these problems that we see, that we feel compelled to, I need y'all to remember to always save yourself. Are y'all with me?
Yeah.
Take that time, man. Make sure y'all feel good. Make sure when y'all wake up, y'all are ready. Because I'm sitting in front of the next, like we said, next CEO of Coke right now. Y'all about to make sure my, you know what I'm saying, my Coke always here, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sitting in front of someone that's going to change, y'all going to change the world, but make sure that y'all save yourself first. That ain't being selfish. The greatest thing that you could ever do for this world is take care of yourself, man. I had no idea where my voice would lead me till I got a call from that guy, Scott Budnick, one day, and you know, he hit me on the phone. I don't even know how he got my number. I get this random text from Scott Budnick. Scott Budnick say, "Hey man, my name is Scott Budnick. I'm the producer of The Hangover, Project X." And immediately, as soon as I saw that, look, listen to me, y'all. As soon as I saw that, I said, "All right, y'all, about to be in Hangover 4. It's over. I'm hitting the big screen. I'm out. Hey, get the little, hey, like, you know, I'm thinking I'm out." Scott says, "Man, I work in a prison system in California, man. The juveniles love your videos, man. I want to take you to the inside." I'm like, oh. Okay. We'll get to that movie script later, but all right, like, I got you. So when I would pray and I would ask for an opportunity to change this world, I would ask for an opportunity to make an impact, I didn't say it needed to look a certain way. And when I talked about it, what I said earlier, open what? Have an open what? An open heart, right? Because who knows what opportunities might occur or walk into your life. But I knew that I asked to make a change. And I didn't say it needed to look a certain way when I was going to do it. Would y'all agree? Do y'all want? Does everybody in here want to make a change?
Yeah.
In what? Y'all want to make a change in what though? Like, because somebody make it clear for me. A change in what? You know, because all of y'all in here for a couple of different things. But a lot of us have a common denominator down on this floor that we speak about. But I want to hear from y'all. Like, what y'all want to make a change in what? Someone throw it out. Anybody? Don't be scared now. Y'all a change in what? Anything. Y'all, someone throw it out. Y'all want to make? Come on, I need to hear from somebody.
Energy.
In energy, fire. What else we changing? Gotta change it. We gotta keep the energy fire. What else we changing? Let me hear from y'all in the room. Y'all nervous? I ain't, man. I'm chilling, man. What we got?
Carbon emissions.
Carbon emissions, very important. What else we changing?
Education.
Education.
Policy.
Policies.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. All this change in the world that I know we gonna bring. I want y'all to have an open heart because I really thought I was gonna be in Hangover 4. Scott calls me, brings me to Lancaster Prison in California. We go level 4, my first time ever sent in a prison. You know, I'm not really directly, you know, I would say directly, yes, I'm affected by incarceration, but, you know, it's not like, you know, I got a dad has been locked up forever, but I grew up in a community that is directly affected. I got friends, I got people, I got clients, people I cut. Like, I see what it does. And I believe that empathy is the one thing that's going to be able to change the world beyond the carbon emissions, the policies, and the things that we believe in. The fact that we can have empathy for other people is the reason why we could bring a change every day. Y'all feel me on that? Because the reason why y'all care about these things is because y'all got empathy, right? But having empathy for thy neighbor was the first thing I had to feel. Because these are big things we talking about in here, but it starts with being a pillar in your community first. If I couldn't show the people I live next to every day that walk the same walk of life as me, that I could care, sit down and listen to them, how could I possibly challenge the world? And it couldn't start with the people I see every day. Be a pillar in your own community first. I went to Lancaster Prison with Scott. I kid y'all now, I was about to sign a 5,000 square foot building the day of for a business idea that I have for a creative co-op working space in Midtown Atlanta. I go on the inside of Lancaster. I'm waiting for my commercial real estate agent to send me the contract that day. I go inside with an open heart. I come outside, contract ready. I look at Scott, and I knew that I was being compelled and I was being pulled somewhere to make a change. I feel like that will fulfill my heart, honestly, y'all. And, you know, I'm proud to say, to fast forward, you know, that story, because I want to hear from you guys. You know, me and Scott Budnick are now currently working on starting the first barber program in the CDCR prison system right now for them to allow to get their license while they're incarcerated. In the California program, as, you know, my guy over here does in the Boston, it's a thing that, you know, we believe in, because as much as I can sit here and aspire, and as much as y'all can sit here and aspire, but, you know, it's one thing to be able to empower your community. And empowering others doesn't always look like having a barber school in a prison to do so. But everybody wants to at least be heard in this life and to be listened to and to be recognized. And I think if you could do those three things right there, if you could recognize, listen, and hear others in your community, then I think that's all you would ever need to create a change and an impact that could last a lifetime. So I really would like to open the floor for you guys to ask me questions. Yes, I have a phenomenal, you know, business background, and, you know, we could do some dope things online, but it starts with understanding why you're here in the first place to do so. So my name is Victor Fontes, and I appreciate y'all listening to me. Yeah, I mean, man, feel free to shoot away. Look, include my brothers in here. I'm including my guys in here too, man. But yo, if there's anything I could do, man, to speak directly into the things that you guys are going through or would like to ask me, please ask me anything. There's no right or wrong question, man. Anything, whatever y'all got on y'all mind, please, man. I came here to talk to y'all, really. So, man, that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I'll start. So I'm a huge fan of your Instagram. I've watched dozens, if not hundreds, of the videos you posted. Many of you have probably seen it, but it almost always starts, at least the ones I watch, with "I'd like to bless you with a haircut." But the thing that I think is so amazing is the haircut leads to these amazing conversations you have with people. So I'm just curious how you had that idea to go from, a haircut, which now is sort of just a warm up to this, much deeper sort of social interaction that you have. I mean, it's really brilliant. So did that come post-COVID, or how did that happen?
Yeah, in the midst of COVID, like I said, I started speaking in the midst of COVID. And for me, I was feeling a lot of fulfillment and purpose through speaking. But I also felt guilty because I got a gift from God through cutting. And I wanted to recognize and use that gift. But I wanted to fulfill my purpose, which I think is to inspire and change the way that we see others. So I really just looked from the inside and the outside of what I was given and found a way that I could merge both of those things together. That came down to the idea of, why don't I just cut a stranger and base the idea of the content about the conversation more so than not just the haircut. So I got that idea from trying to fulfill two things: recognize the gift that God gave me, but also fulfill the purpose that I feel inside to speak. It opened the floor for me just to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about with them. But yeah, that's how I came up with that idea, was just being pulled in two different places and really just saying, why can't I do both of them?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate it.
What do you do to fight your own voice of fear?
What do I do to fight my own voice of fear? I always recognize that, a voice of fear is a moment, but it doesn't really define what you would actually do or what would happen when the time came. And I'm just like y'all, all right? When about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock hit, I started thinking a lot. And I really started doubting myself at night. That's just who I am. I'm a human. Even last night, couldn't tell you how nervous I was to come talk to y'all. It just is what it is. But I understand that a moment of doubt doesn't define me. Y'all didn't get into this room accidentally. Y'all didn't get to this school accidentally. Y'all didn't make it this far accidentally. Y'all made it this far through consistency, through good habits, through your God-given talent. So when I do hear something tell me that I couldn't do it, y'all wait for them lights to cut on. I know what I could do. You got to believe what you could do. But I'm just like, I'm telling you, man, I hear the same voice, but I know when it's time for me to go ahead and act on what it is that I feel I need to be doing, that's all that matters. And I think when it comes down to that game day, when y'all feel like, man, it's time to be the best version of yourself, if you could bring yourself to do so, and that voice, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It always does. So, you got to just fight through it.
Thank you again for coming to speak with us today. I was wondering if you could walk us through some of the conversations you had when you went to visit that prison, due to the fact that some people there may be closer to your age or a little younger than you, but you're perhaps closer than others who go there to speak with them.
Yeah, it was a surreal feeling to go in there and to see, especially guys my age, which it hurts because there's a thing called survivor's guilt that we feel when we come from very small communities. And it hurts because, you'll see guys that, man, I got, you got guys that go through the same thing. They have the same environment, the same, everything is you, with a totally different path in a totally different situation. And when you go in there and you're able to talk to a guy that's also 24, but never coming out a day in his life, something that I realized that has changed my perspective. I know Noble could probably help on this one. Like, I seen somebody that knew that wasn't coming home that had purpose. So I got to go in there and realize, like, damn, man, like, you're not coming home, but you have purpose. And I had a guy in there, man, that lifer, man, and he told me that, his purpose is to make sure every young kid that comes in my age again that has a chance to go home could understand why it's important that they get on the path that they need. So those conversations there are very heavy, but they're actually very humanizing. It actually shows you how normal they are and how a mistake that you can make as a human that most make at a young age, 15, 16, when you're searching for love in a place that doesn't exist. It's like, how are you possibly going to be defined on something you did at that moment, right? Because all of us have made mistakes, some bigger than others, but the same way that we ask for mercy when we mess up, we got to give grace to others. I couldn't possibly sit there in that prison and think that these guys did something worse than I ever did. We all made mistakes. It's a very humanized, you know, it's a very, man, it's an experience that really just shows you how human we all are. But speaking of guys my age, really gave me a lot of hope that, you know, even to the ones that feel like they're really locked down, man, they find purpose. So I think even as ugly as the situation could be for yourself personally, there's gonna be some light in there somewhere, you know. So I try to find that in any situation.
Final question or comment?
Thank you for sharing your story. You talked about going from Fayetteville to Atlanta, even you know, working this job that's giving you a lot of money to, you know, not knowing where money's going to come from. So in terms of dealing with those transitions, what are some strategies that you use to help cope?
For me, I think the clearer the vision, the better the journey, you know, the easier the journey could be. Clearing your vision for me was extremely important. And to clear a vision sometimes, you just got to get that crust out your eyes. That's really just it. Now, do I know what will happen to me in the next year, next 5? Absolutely not. But I had this shirt on to me today that says Planted is a brand that I'm building, and I think it really is just to know what you're doing today. And I think it's not about where you came from or really knowing where you're going, but clearing the vision for what you got to do today is most important. So I had no idea. Yes, all right, I'm going to be speaking now. I'm not cutting celebs. I'm not in the shop no more. I haven't cut in the shop in 3 years. What do I do? Where is it going to come from? But that comes back to that voice. Because when I start thinking too far about things that don't exist right now, I'm going to go ahead and psych myself out. It don't exist. Only thing that exists is what I got to handle today. I sit here and psych myself out on what's going to happen to me after graduation, after I get my master's, or what I'm going to do when I get to this company. It don't exist. What do I have to do today to be the best version of myself and to show the others around me that they are loved? Got to clear that crust out your eye, man. I feel like, man, looking too far forward sometimes will block what you got to be around right now. There's so much beauty and so much love right now in the community you guys have around y'all that you don't want to be hyper-focused on where my next check coming at. I know the check coming, man. I believe I'm going to be one of the most influential people in this world. You think God ain't going to give me a couple dollars in that process? It's coming, man, but it can't define you. It can't be the thing that you even put value on. I know it's coming. Y'all, man, the money coming, but man, if I don't know why I ain't even doing it, man, that money just, man, I got it, you know, and it doesn't fulfill. It doesn't fulfill. You'll get it and you'll feel empty. But focus on what I got to do today and staying planted in that clear the vision, man.
Awesome. Thank you.